we're going to look at Captain Sisay. And Captain Sisay is a very, very strong green-white general. She costs 2 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. She's a 2/2. And you can tap her to search your library for a legend or a legendary card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So basically how this deck functions with all Captain Sisay decks is it's a toolbox deck. And what you want to do is you really want to have a solution to a problem. So during various times of the game, different problems are going to arise, and you're going to need to be able to fetch out solutions. So basically, Captain Sisay runs where you have basically 23 or 25 or however many legends in your deck. They're always in your hand, and that's what Captain Sisay does for you. It just gives you infinite amount of resources to kind of choose from when you're looking to find a solution to a problem. So with that said, let's take a look at the legendary cards I have in the deck, okay? Because you will need quite a bit of legendary cards for this deck to function properly. So make sure you have enough, obviously, to do that. Alright, so let's take a look. Let's get Captain Sisay out of the way here. And we'll start with some of the lands, okay? The legendary cards in this deck are the most important, and we're going to start with the lands. And I run quite a few. And we'll start with a Corhaven. We have Mirren. We have a Boseiju, right there. Gemstone Caverns. Serra Sanctum. And last but not least, we have a Guy's Cradle. The reason I run so many legendary lands is that I want to make my land drops. Now, realistically, I don't think I need Gemstone Caverns or possibly even Boseiju, but this is a legendary card, and if I miss a land drop and I really need to make a land drop, Captain Sisay will fetch me a land. So I think it's kind of like invaluable to put as many legendary lands as you can in the deck. I have a Corhaven, so I decided not to put the Yavimaya Hollows in there. But I think one of those is enough, and 5 legendary lands to fetch up is quite a bit. Alright, now like I said, this is a toolbox deck, and it revolves around mainly creatures, okay? So this is a creature-based toolbox deck, and we'll go ahead and we'll get these out of the way, and we'll look at the legendary creatures that Captain Sisay can fetch at any point in time. Start with the Gaddock Teague, right? He's just going to take people out. We got Rafellos. Let's see what we have. I have a Mangara. Mangara is really good. You can stack triggers from this effect. Mangara says tap Mangara, exile Mangara, and target creature. So basically, you can tap Mangara, untap with the trigger on the stack, and get rid of possibly 2 or more creatures if you'd like. We have Linvala. It's very good against other creature-based decks. Elish Norn. We have a Yosei. We have an Azusa. We have Kozilek. We have Ulamog. Rhea Dawnbringer. Vorinclex. Thalia, which is one of my go-to cards, I should say. Thalia is probably the first 1 or 2 creatures that I do fetch with the Captain Sisay. First, I would either go with a Teague or a Thalia, usually just to kind of pin down my opponents and slow down the game. Just because that's really what you want Captain Sisay to do. You want to be able to slow down the game enough where you can use her activated ability to kind of take control and basically just control the flow of the game and really just like disassemble your opponent's decks from there. We have a Hikori, Dust Drinker, I believe. Hikori is a Winter Orb on a stick. Winter Orb is very good. You can untap more than 1 land, so keep that in there. We have Safi, another very good legend, which can allow you to kind of buy back your creatures that go into the bin. And last but not least, we have Melira. I do run Melira combo in this deck. Melira could be very strong. She can be very strong. She can take over games. If you're playing a Skithiryx deck or any poison-based deck, then Melira could just win the game outright on her own. But mostly we have a infinite combo with Kitchen Finks and Woodfall Primus. So it's very easy to fetch up your complete combo because Sisay gets Melira and you can kind of do it whenever you want. Alright, the last 3 legendary spells in the deck are Jite, we have a Mindslaver, and we have a Mox Opal. Back to the Mindslaver real quick. You can infinite Mindslaver lock people in this deck. Let me get the land that does that with it. Here, hold on, give me 1 second. Here we are. So you can get a Mistspell Plains with a Mindslaver, and basically infinite lock an opponent out. So they just will never take another turn. That's really, really strong, I think, for this deck. And there are a couple infinite combos like that, where you can Mistral Plane something to the bottom of your deck, and then just fetch it right up with Captain Sisay. So that's a little mini combo inside the deck. Let's get rid of the legends. Those are the most important part of the deck, but we'll kind of run through those real quick. I want to make sure we have enough time to look at everything else. Next, let's just go to the ramp here. We have Cultivate, Sky Shard Claim, Sakura Tribe Elder, Oracle of Moldiah. We have a Mana Reflections and a Mirari's Wake. I think they're both really important. And then we'll get to the artifact ramp here. Obviously we have the Soul Ring and the Mana Crypt. And I'm going to stop on those two real fast. I don't usually talk about this much, but if you're like me and you play a lot of EDH or Commander, or you're kind of new to this, like, I don't know, you watch my videos maybe because, you'd like to build a Captain Sisay deck. If you are one of these people who plays EDH and you feel that you're going to play EDH in the long haul for the long run, I suggest you invest in these two cards. Mana Crypt is about $70. Okay, it's a little expensive, but the price will never go down on this card. And if you are looking to play competitively, and if you're looking to play this format more and more in the future, then I suggest you go out and you spend a little bit of money and you get a Mana Crypt. It's an investment that is going to help you in every single one of your decks, and the same with a Soul Ring. Okay, so you can't play without a Soul Ring, you can't really play without a Mana Crypt either. Go out and get them, they're really important. And if you ever, tomorrow if you want to stop playing Magic or whatever it is, you can go and put that Mana Crypt right back on eBay and get all your money back. So it's a good investment for anyone, and it's just going to go up in the future anyway. So, let's continue on. Gilded Lotus, Mana Vault, Grim Monolith, Mind Stone, Selesnya Signets, Solemn, Thrain Dynamo, and a Coalition Relic. Now, there is quite a bit of mana ramp in this deck, and the reason for that is there is never a bad draw in this deck. Alright, as you saw with a lot of my legends, they cost 6 or 7, and we have to make sure that those come out on time. Captain Sisay needs to make the land drops, and it needs to have a lot of mana available just because Captain Sisay is a toolbox, and we have to be able to fetch up any card in the deck at a moment's notice and use it. So we don't want to have to fetch up a card and then kind of be out of mana, alright? So we have to make sure we have a lot of mana in this deck to produce enough to cast all of our spells. There's never a dead draw in this deck because you always have Sisay. Okay, let us move on here. Let us go to some other artifacts, the non-acceleration artifacts. We have Lightning Greaves for Sisay. Make sure we can use her ability immediately. Along with that, we have a 1,000-year elixir. Use it twice during a turn. During the early turns, if I do have a 1,000-year elixir out, first I will probably get a Thalia. I'll untap Sisay, and then I'll probably get a Gaia's Cradle, something like that. But that's really what we want to do in the early turns. We want to get our mana flowing and get as many cards out as possible. Again, another card to kind of abuse Sisay's ability is Rings of Brighthearth. This is another card that I think everyone should invest in. It's only a couple dollars. It's really, really strong. It will double, for 2 mana, it will double any of activated ability. And for example, that could be a Birthing Pod. It could also be a Mimic Vat, or a Captain Sisay, or a Mangara, or whatever it is. There's a lot of really, really good interactions that can be had from Rings of Brighthearth. So I would request that everyone go out and buy one from your local store. Alright, continuing on, we have a top for some deck manipulation. We have a Skull Clamp, a Cloudstone Curio, and an Ashnod's Altar. We have a Cloudstone Curio in this deck. It is very, very good. It will allow us to rebuy a lot of our permanents. For example, with Azusa out, we have Cloudstone Curio. We can rebuy a Gaia's Cradle a couple times, actually twice in a turn, and we can tap it for more mana. If we are able to bounce Azusa with another creature, then we can get even more value out of that and do it again with another 2 extra lands. So I suggest you put a Cloudstone Curio in your deck. It's kind of broken, but it's a lot of fun, and it helps you smooth out your draws and do a lot of. It helps you. Let me just say, it helps you leverage a lot of your plays. It helps you make them a lot more powerful. All right, let's get on to the creatures here that are non-legendary. We'll start with Eatwitness, another good one with Cloudstone Curio. As you all know, my favorite Fierce Empath. He goes in all my decks. He fetches out a lot of the guys. He's going to fetch out a Sun Titan, a Woodfall Primus. What else? Besides that, he's got some legendary guys. The to get. But he fetches 4 or 5 guys in this deck, so he's good enough. We have Kitchen Finks, right? There's our 2 persist combos with Malera. We have a Revel Arc and a Karmic Guide for that. For the Karmic Guide combos, we can combo out with Revel Arc and Karmic Guide and kind of just keep getting our guys back for Infi Reanimate, I guess. After that, we have 2 Planeswalkers. I like this Garruk. I don't like the other Garruks. This Garruk untaps lands, and that's important for me, so we put him in. And I also like Karn. We can kind of ramp into a Karn as another one of our removal strategies. There isn't that much removal in this deck because I believe that Captain Sisay kind of functions as removal herself because she can tutor up whatever you need. So I didn't put very many Wrath effects because this is a creature-based deck as well. So we have Beast Within. It is the best green removal spell ever, basically. Who cares about a 3/3? You kill whatever you want. Obviously, we have Swords. And that's it for my small removal package. We can go to the enchantments and others. So we have a Sylvan Library. We have a Survival. We have a Greater Good. It's another one of my sack outlets. We do run both of the Eldrazi, so we're never going to deck ourselves. So don't worry about that with Greater Good. You can discard your Heart's Content. We have Eldrami's Call on the tutors. I missed one, actually, I'm sorry. We have Ore Shards here. Ore Shards is very important in this deck. It's another really good removal spell for artifacts and enchantments. Make sure you put it in your green-white decks. It is a ridiculous bomb for 3 mana, so make sure it's in there. And then we have some tutors. Some more tutors. We have Enlightened Tutor, Worldly Tutor, Idyllic Tutor, and we have a Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith is good for getting Captain Sisay out of the deck if it has fallen trapped to someone else. Anyway, we're getting through this deck pretty quick, guys. I like this. Usually it takes me a long time. I talk too much. But we're getting through it pretty fast. Okay, last but not least is the mana base. We'll start with the fetches. 2. I don't remember how many lands are in this deck. I just forgot. So you'll have to come to the website, commandzone.com, and check the deck list for yourself. We have those fetches. Here are some non-basics. Strip Mine. I didn't put Wasteland in just because I have a lot of colorless lands and I want to make sure I make my land drops. And also, by the way, I did not play the Crucible combo with with Life from the Loam. You could do that in this deck if you want. When I was building this deck, there were just so many cards I wanted to put in, I couldn't figure it out. And I think there's a couple of ways to build this. Maybe I built it the wrong way. I don't know. I think I built it pretty well. But you can build this with an enchantment base theme with Captain Sisay, which is totally fine. You can do it with a graveyard engine with lands, with Life on the Loam, Crucible, Strip Mine, Azusa, if you'd like. I decided not to do that, but it's up to you. We have Mosswood Bridge, Reflecting Pool. We have a Savannah. Today, this is my Temple Garden. It's in another friend's deck who's in the tournament, so my apologies. We have a City of Brass and a Command Tower. And now the rest is simple basics. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 planes. Let's get those out for you guys here. And then we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 forests in the deck. Alright. We finished a little early, so let me get to something else actually that I can show you guys real fast. So, like I said, Captain Sisay, I had a problem building this deck because like I put out all of my cards when I was initially trying to build it, and I had like 90 cards in the main deck that I wanted to run, and it was really, really hard to kind of lower that down to a plausible 65 that I could put in the deck. So anyway, so here were some of the additions, or some of the close calls, I should say, that didn't make the deck, or at least for now, they could still make the deck, I don't know. But Sylvan Scrying was really close, simply because of this land right here. I want to be able to get Mistful Plains out, because it just allows for infinite recursion of my legendary permanents. So like, I can bomb any Gaia's Cradle, I can bomb any Serra's Sanctum, I can bomb any, whatever, Mox Opal, which is another very good one, by the way, if you want to get ahead on mana. Searching up a Mox Opal and playing that on turn 3 or 4 is really strong. But Yeah, I think Mistful Plains is like one of the undercover, best lands in the whole deck because it allows for me to get so much more efficiency out of my spells. I think there are at least 23 legendary spells in this deck, and to be able to recur them after they're destroyed is really, really strong. So that's why Sylvan Scrying was going to be in the deck, but I just couldn't find a place for it because that's really all it did, and it just felt like it wasn't strong enough. So another combo that I was going to put in this deck, but I decided not to, was this one. We have Earthcraft. I always have these Japanese cards. I always forget. Anyway, they're both enchantments. This one makes a 1/1. Leave me a comment, or actually, you know what? The name of this card's going to be flashing on the screen. But we have Earthcraft here, and basically you just make infinite guys. So if you're looking to do enchantment combo, you want to put that in your deck. Also, another close call was Sterling Grove, and with that, Academy Rector to get all my enchantments. However, when I finished building the deck, I only ended up with 6 enchantments. So I decided not to go the route of the enchantments just because it's slightly fragile and I can't get them back. And they just don't do enough. I felt like they just don't do enough. If you want to put them in, go for it. You can try. Like Defense of the Heart. I also had, like for example, I had Tooth and Nail in, and I had Defense of the Heart as well. But I think Captain Sisay already does that. Isn't that what Captain Sisay does? Captain Sisay is already the toolbox for everything in the deck, basically. So to waste room in your deck for cards like Defense when your general already does exactly that is kind of a little overboard for me, a little overkill. Which is why I took that stuff out. If you'd like my reason. I have Regrowth that I wanted to put in, but I ended up taking out just because we do have a way to scoop our Graveyard back into our library with our Eldrazi's, and we have E-Witness and other things. I decided not to run the Regrowth, although it is a good idea, and I would not fault you for running that. Path to Exile. Swords is better. Path is really not very good because it allows them to get ahead on mana. But I did want to have a secondary spot removal in the deck, although I decided to take it out because I just didn't have the room. There's just like too much stuff that has to go in the deck to make it function properly that you end up with cards like Path to Exile that just don't work, or you just kind of don't need them. Now I always say this guy is my favorite, and he draws a card whenever a creature comes into play, but I don't think I need that. Like I think this deck runs perfectly well. It runs extremely smooth when Sisay is fetching something every turn. And if Sisay is fetching a legendary spell for you every turn, I don't think you need to really be drawing that many cards. I think you're going to naturally do that anyway, just because you draw whatever you need on every single turn. So you just don't need this kind of spell. I think there are better cards like Revelark for more combo-based interactions than him. But it's up to you if you decide to build it like that. And the last one I put in is Gabony Township. The reason I did not keep Gabony Township in this deck is because I do not feel that I am amassing a huge army of creatures to attack. I don't really have any token production. I don't really do much of that. It's more of a synergy interaction based deck with Captain Sisay and the legendary cards that she can pull out of the deck. So I don't think that my creatures are going to be sticking around long enough to effectively use Gabony Township, and I should be using my mana pretty much every turn with Captain Sisay, just because she smooths out draws and she allows you to get whatever you need at that time. So anyway, this is my version of Captain Sisay. I think it's really strong. It's a lot of fun to play. You can lock people out. You can take infinite turns or whatever it is. It's a really good deck. So build it and enjoy it. Thank you for watching. This is John from theCommandZone.com. Check out the website, more videos, all that kind of stuff. Thank you.